If I asked you to name the best fullback ever, or just a great fullback, who would you say? Now, the reason I'm asking this is we'll get to in a second. But for me, it'd be someone like Larry Centers, Cardinals fullback, caught a million passes, more passes than Steve Largent in his career. I mean, he's unbelievable. Or even Calvin Johnson. Mike Allstott, obviously, for his, carrying the offensive workload for Tampa during all those years. They were great. He was such a good rusher and blocked for Warwick Dunn. Jim Brown, changed the way fullback was played. It became more of an offensive position than a utility guy. He's like, I'm gonna run down their throats every single play, and I'm gonna do well at it. Lorenzo Neal, he blocked for LaDainian for like a million years, and they got 1,100 yards together, so that's pretty self-explanatory. And then John Riggins, because he was awesome, and there was that one playoff series where he averaged like 40 carries a game, but he only averaged like 3 yards a carry, and I feel like that just is the fullback approval. To do stuff like that. Now, what's so weird about this, okay, is that if you noticed, none of them played into the 2010s, and none of them really even played into the 2000s except Allstott and Neal. And again, they all retired before 2007, so early retirements. They barely played into the 2000s. Now, I just think what's so crazy about that is the fact of we're in an age where offense is thriving. Every year someone's breaking a quarterback record. Every single year, touchdown records being broken or expanded onto, or, Patty Mahomes was the youngest to do this, or, Carson Wentz is the first to ever throw 4,000 yards with no receiver over 500. Every single year there's a record being broken. That's the case without fullbacks and running backs. They seem to be the opposite. Their records are like decreasing. Now, guys like Christian McCaffrey are doing it in the passing game, but that's like the only records guys are breaking anymore is if they're catching passes, because that's still a pretty new concept. LT and Marshall Faulk really revolutionized running backs doing that. For me, I just like a running back, the 3 yards in a cloud of dust style football, from like the 70s when, your running backs were your team. Earl Campbell, when he was in the spotlight, or a guy like Walter Payton, where these guys, they were just so good at just running the football. To me, that's more entertaining than, 5-step drop back, throw the ball 50 yards downfield, and pray every single play. Because, thanks, college football. We loved you so much that now we get to watch so many teams run your exact style of offense on Sundays, too. And because of this new style offense, spread offense, and running way more vertical schemes, fullbacks are just dying the traditional sense. From what I pulled, 6 teams had a fullback last year, and then you going back to a year just like 2007, 15 had it. That's a 9 increase. 9 teams, did a full 360 flip and changed the way they played. I just think that's a testament to how the old school fullback is just a dying breed. Another thing is I was looking at the combine because I was like, fullbacks used to obviously attend. There used to be a pretty big deal. But in 2019, one fullback attended, and he was drafted in the 7th round. And in 2020, no fullbacks attended. None, which is just insane because it's a position in football. You'd think there'd be people. As I said earlier, run game is my favorite part of football, I think. It's just, to me, the most entertaining part to watch. Big reason why guys like Saquon Barkley are my favorite players, because I just think that's like what I want to watch. Like if I was on the football field, that's what I'd want to do, just run people over and jump over them. So that's what I like. It's just like the fact that you are a professional running over another professional or making him look silly when he's in the top 1% in his position. His job, he's paid millions of dollars every year to tackle you. And the fact that you can make him look silly over and over again, I think is so much cooler than passing. Now, don't get me wrong, I still love a great quarterback, but I'm more into the, West Coast offenses and things a lot more short, a lot more intermediate, and letting the receivers do more, work after the catch than, in these verticals offense. They seem to, get the ball 40 yards on field and just have to run straight. So, I don't know, I'm just not as big on that. I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong, that offense is like helping the NFL a lot. I like, it's bringing audiences in from college scene and just overall, because some people think it's a lot more exciting to watch. So I appreciate it for that, but at the same time, it's a little bittersweet. As I see it, fullbacks, they were like the foundation of football. For years, there's a reason quarterbacks only used to pass for like 1,000 yards in a season, because they just run the ball over and over and over again because it was easier for them. And fullbacks started that. They are like the forefathers of football. If there's a positional Mount Rushmore for football, fullbacks are on there 1,000%. I mean, they were the foundation of most teams. Guys like Bruno Nagasuri and, they were the whole team. I mean, and then they'd play defense too, or they'd kick. I mean, they just did everything. So they would. I mean, they were one of the first positions in football that really was like, they were like the quarterbacks of the 40s, like before offenses revolutionized into these passing attacks. I mean, even the great Packers teams, with Lombardi were carried by Jim Taylor. I mean, that's just a fact. Bart Starr was good, but, without Jim Taylor, they wouldn't have been the dynasty that they were. Oh, okay. After all this melodramatic, me talking about how the position is dying, I will say, both teams in the Super Bowl, Chiefs and the Niners, had all Pro Bowl fullbacks. Anthony Sherman for the Chiefs and Kyle Juszczyk for the Niners. Now, I'm not saying this is the reason they went to the Super Bowl, but I'm just saying it's pretty coincidental that only 5 teams had fullbacks, but 2 of the ones that were Pro Bowlers made it to the Super Bowl. I'm just pointing that out. I'm not here to tell you anything. I'm just pointing that out. Now, going back to Kyle Juszczyk, he's my favorite fullback in football right now. Like, I want his jersey. Like, he's awesome because, a fullback started in the NFL. They were utility. They did whatever they needed to do, and he's doing that now, I mean, he's showing that you can still be a fullback. He's, if you look at his stats, I'll pull him up on the screen. He's, he doesn't run. He runs like 5-6 times a season. They don't need him to do that. They have Tevin Coleman, Matt Breida, and Robert Mostert. They don't need him to run. They need him to block for those guys, which he does fantastic. I mean, the Niners were second in rushing this year, and a lot of that is because they still run fullback. But what's so interesting is every season, if you look, it's like he has 300 receiving yards. Like, every single season, like consistently around that number. And that's exactly what they need him for. When they spread out the offense, they think Kyle Juszczyk is in, he's going to block again because he's a great blocker. Oh, wait, just kidding. He's catching a pass for 4 yards on 3rd down that they needed on 3rd and 3. I mean, he moves the chains if it be a part of the play in the passing game or in the running. I mean, he's just a great blocker who also can catch the football extremely well. I mean, in the Super Bowl, he had two touchdowns. I voted him for Super Bowl MVP early on when the Niners were still winning before Kyle Shanahan to that game, and they lost. And I think that's why he's my favorite, too, is like, a fullback who loved being fullback so much, he evolved with the game. So the position could stay alive. I mean, he's a valuable player. He's like the most paid fullback in the NFL by a good margin. Like, he has a 4-year contract, and like no other fullback has something like that because he's just that good at football that, Shanahan realizes, holy crap, we need him. And I mean, even with the Falcons, back when he was in Atlanta, they always had Pat DeMarco, who was their fullback, and, he won his Pro Bowls there because he was such a good blocker for them. And, Shanahan, that's something I really appreciate, obviously learning from his dad, loves to utilize the fullback, and I appreciate that in the modern NFL because there aren't very many fullbacks left. Obviously, for the most part, this video is a joke. I still mean everything I'm saying, but, it's kind of just, a fun concept, because a position is dying, and, I think that's sad because, fullbacks really emulate what football is, They would run headfirst into 20 people and get, clobbered, then hop back up, go to the line of scrimmage and do it again. They didn't care, Their job is to run into people. It's not even to run around them like most running backs are now. Their job was to literally either block and run into someone, or I'm just going to run you over because I'm, 250, 6'1", and my job is to run straight. And I think that's just, I love it. It's amazing. I think that's fantastic that there were people who would sign up to do that. And don't get me wrong, they're getting paid a lot of money. But, in the earlier days of football, they weren't really. So to do that, just shows that's awesome. And that's why I'm glad that Juszczyk is still around. And guys like Sherm, they're evolving the position and allowing the fullback to stay alive in today's NFL. And so, we still have a remnant of what used to be the greatest position in football.